Welcome everyone to Mom Street USA. My name is Jacque, aka Wishes Mama, and this evening I am joined by our good friend Kirk over at Walrus Carp because Kate is in Disneyland enjoying herself there. So Kirk has agreed to come on and chat about all things Disney with us.
Hi. No, seriously, thank you so much for having me on. I'm a big fan. I'm a longtime watcher and first time guest, so this is exciting for me.
Perfect. It's perfect. I love it. So tonight the plan is just to kind of chat all about all things Disney. Kirk is definitely a park pro, as he calls himself. So we want to make sure we get all sorts of good information from him this evening. That way we can continue our quest to help you guys plan your trips and give you all of the hacks that we know to help out with that. So to start us off here, Kirk, just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your family, about how you ended up kind of being in the Disney bubble, and kind of tell us about you.
Yeah, so my name is Kirk, and I've been a theme park fan for my entire life. So I've been going to theme parks with my family, and that's just like how we've always enjoyed spending like extra time. And then Mel and I, my wife, we always went on like small like vacations and weekends away to theme parks, and just were every single like Jersey week that everybody talks about would be when Mel and I would come down and we would enjoy Epcot food and wine. And then yeah, we integrated our kids. We have a 4 and a 6-year-old, both girls, and they're huge park fans as well. And we've been taking them to theme parks forever. Like our very first ride with our oldest, she was, I think, like 6 months, and we brought her in the infant carrier, literally the infant carrier, onto the dark ride at Hershey Park's Chocolate World.
God.
So our oldest literally was in the infant. I was like, how is this even like? I was like, I'll hold her, and they're like, nah, just bring that thing on. I'm like, man, Hershey Park has no rules. All right, let's do it. Does she get a piece of chocolate too, even though she's not going to eat it? Because you always get a free piece of chocolate at the end of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. And you guys relocated recently within the last little over a year to Orlando, and to Tampa, sorry. And
Yeah.
You guys live down there now, right?
Yeah, so I started a theme park clothing company called Walrus Carp, which is named after Walrus and the Carpenter from Alice in Wonderland, which is my favorite film. So as huge Disney fans, we always wanted to figure out a way to have a side hustle, and that's kind of where it started in 2019, June of 2019. And then September of 2021, we moved down to Pinellas County, which is just west of Tampa, about an hour and a half out of Orlando, to do this full time. So I quit my job. Mel, my wife, quit her job, and we went at this thing full bore. So yeah, it's I've been in the parks quite a bit, live streaming really strong, 2 to 3 times a week in parks starting January of this year, 2022, and probably have racked somewhere in the realm of 2,000 plus hours in the parks, and at least 1,500 miles. So
Yeah. That's crazy. And that's where the majority of our followers and people that are hanging out here know Kirk from the live streams on TikTok. So that is something that he has kind of started, and it's kind of grown a little faster than you anticipated. If correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we from 2019 until 2020, even like early 2021, the business was really small, really small business, and we still are a very small business, but the amount that has changed when you have focus. So if I could say anything to your audience is 100% focus will help you attain goals a lot faster. So it's not easy to be so divided, and it's hard when you have kids, when you have a full-time job, to do something that's really your passion project on the side. And you kind of just got to go all in and know that you can always get a job if you need to.
Very true. So my chat is blowing up because they're dying to know the story behind the shirt that you have on and what the top of it says.
Oh yeah. So the shirt is because this is Mom Street, right? So I'm wearing my daddy shirt because I'm a daddy, and it's Big Daddy, but it's spelled as like beignet, so beignet daddy, and it's got Big Daddy from Princess and the Frog as a beignet in his car in front of his giant mansion. So
Love it. Love it. And I'm rocking my Walrus Carp all over print shirt tonight, my Mickey Premium Bar shirt with the little logo on the side. I thought that was appropriate for this evening's show.
yeah, it's a good one. It's our very first like sunglass, old school sunglass
Yeah.
pattern, and it was our second design overall, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
I This whole thing has been wild, to be honest. But
Yeah.
it's the coolest thing in the world because I get to spend a lot of time in the parks, and then of course with my family in the parks, and that's like what's crazy to me. Like everybody here knows that I'm in the parks on the streaming days, but on non-streaming days, like Saturdays and Sundays, we find ourselves in theme parks quite often. So it's like what days do we have off? I don't know,
Yeah.
Tuesday, Thursday.
Right, literally. So, speaking of kind of your family and those trips, tell us about your first trips that you remember with your kids, whether it be both girls, one girl, tell us kind of about that experience.
Yeah, so we were like most people who were kind of like trying to hold off, right? So I think when you think about Disney, you think about the cost and you start going like, are they going to remember it? And everyone will tell you, don't go when they're young. They won't even
Right,
know anything, right? Well,
right.
that is the worst advice ever. So we ended up going when our oldest was still under 3, and our youngest then was 1. And I remember the very first experience for them was we went to eat at Sanaa. So we went to Animal Kingdom Lodge and we ate at Sanaa right next to the windows, and they got to see all the animals, and they were eating like all
Awesome.
the breads and spreads, and they're so young. They were so young, and they're like gnawing on non-bread, and I remember laughing. We have so many pictures from this trip too. And we were bonkers crazy because if you don't realize this, if you're under 3 for your kids, they eat for free everywhere. So I went way over the top on ADRs. Like we had at least 2 table service meals a day, which is ungodly too many.
Yeah.
Sometimes 3 because they ate for free. They ate for free at buffets. They ate for free at Cinderella's Royal Table. They ate for free at Storybook Dining. So, yeah, I would recommend, and they get into the parks for free. So, yes,
Right.
go with your kids before they are 3 years old, and you will save a ton of money and have these great experiences. And the pictures are great. And so, once again, they may not remember everything, but you'll have all these great memories and you'll have all these great pictures. So, yeah, I mean, we have pictures of our girls twirling in Cinderella dresses before Cinderella's royal table in front of the castle, and they're 1 and 3.
That's awesome. That's
You know,
awesome.
you
And
don't
for
get
anyone
that
who
stuff
doesn't
back.
know, Kirk mentioned ADRs. Those are advanced dining reservations that you can book ahead of time before your Disney trip, typically for your more traditional sit-down table restaurants that you want to do. So some of the big name ones that Kirk was mentioning are all available just through those advanced dining. So that's what that ADR stands for, if you were curious.
There you go.
Perfect. So how were your trips with the kids different than trips that like just you and Mel had taken previously? What was the biggest differences that you noticed?
Being selfless is very different, and having to recognize your kids' schedules. So I think that's the biggest challenge that most people have is that they want to cram in the magic because of the cost. So which I do recommend, planning will make you more successful. So that's number one thing that you should always do. However, when you're with the kids, they have a lot of unique demands, and we talk about it all the time on live streams where I pivot based on things that happen in the parks. Well, your kids add a whole other dynamic. I mean, people in your group, and the larger your group gets, will add more to the dynamic too. But sleep schedules, nap schedules, snacks and feeding, and all those things are really important to keep those routines as close to what you normally do back home. Because otherwise, there's so much stimuli, and if they're not getting that, either that brain break or we would always go back to the hotel for a midday break, and we
Yeah,
would cut out a
absolutely.
little bit early. So it also depends on the age of your kids, because you can obviously run, if they're a little bit older, you can run them a little bit more ragged, stay out a little bit later. But the younger they are, really you got to keep to their schedule.
Yeah, we found that out this last trip with my kids. We were not anticipating them being able to stay out nearly as late as they did, but we just kind of listened to how they were doing and really paid attention to what they were doing. And like they made it until like 11:30 at Mickey's Not So Scary, which we were like, who are these children? And then like the next morning they were pretty okay waking up, and it's like, well, they'll crash on the way home and that's okay, but like, holy cow. So that was exciting for us, but I totally agree with that. Like you got to really keep an eye on them, because they, even though you think you know them, putting them in Disney is a whole different ballgame, because like you said, of all the, it can be very overstimulating for kids. So really paying attention to your kids, I think, is huge.
Yeah, and also recognizing and understanding what your kids can handle. So there's also knowing if you've ever been to theme parks with them before, what types of attractions do they like, which ones do they avoid. Like for you, I know you deal sometimes with sensitivity to loud noises and things like that. So like they're all important aspects to think about when you're planning your trip. And that's why, once again, the planning is the most important.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike had a good comment here. He said, experience the park through the kids' eyes. Don't make them experience the park through your eyes.
Yeah, although I will say this, Mike, you're the one paying, bro. So you got to do like a little bit of give and take. So like, all right, ready? We talked about planning, and I'll leave that kind of generic. I'm sure you're going to ask more questions, but I will say this because I think it's apropos at this point. I always recommend to do the most important thing to your kids, to you, your spouse, your partner, your family, first thing in the day. Whether that's an attraction, whether that's a certain type of dining that makes sense for that time period, whether it's a show, whether it's finding that one random piece of merch that may sell out. Whatever that is that's important to them, it's like unarguable. Go and do those things first. And then everything else is icing on the cake. It like removes all this pressure because once you get bogged down and the day starts getting longer and longer and people start getting more stressed, or lines getting longer and crowds are, it's real people-y and you're trying to maneuver with strollers and all those things just compound. So when you can accomplish your big, greatest hits, like think of it, your greatest hits. We're not talking about B-sides. We're talking about what's the most important. And remember, what's the most important to your kids or your family might be dramatically different than when you Google, what's the best thing to do in Magic Kingdom? And it says Seven Dwarfs, but your kids could care less about Seven Dwarfs. They want to go on Pirates. Well, then go on Pirates. And who cares about Seven Dwarfs? Unless it's important to you. Then do that.
Yeah. Well, it's like the first trip that we took with my daughter was during the middle of kind of the really height of the COVID restrictions, the masks, and, parks were running at limited capacity and all of that. And we had 2 days in Magic Kingdom, and the whole first day, we kept walking around Fantasyland, and my daughter kept asking when we were going to ride the carousel. I had no idea that the carousel was going to be such a huge deal to her. Mm-hmm. And so all day long, and it was like, well, it's not really on our list, but like, okay, we'll figure it out. So we finally made the deal with her that literally our second Magic Kingdom day, we rope dropped the carousel, and we were the first people that day to ride the carousel. And not only that, but we had a little unintentional magic, because that was when on the carousel, if you don't know, during COVID, they put numbers on the rows and they assigned you a row. And that was the row that you went to, because they were limiting people's exposure, And my husband and I had kind of been whispering like, oh, how cool would it be if we got to be on Cinderella's horse? And so like, I was, looking it up online and trying to figure out which one it was. Well, then we realized they were assigning rows, and we were like, oh, no. Well, lo and behold, they gave us the row that had her horse in it. So Amelia got to ride it, and she was just through the roof. And it was like one of those moments that I will never, ever forget, was her just they've got that little tiny iron fence on it, just her face waiting for the horses to start moving. And it's just, that was it, because the rest of the day to her was as perfect as it could be, because she got to ride the carousel first thing in the morning.
Yeah, and so I know you overplan and you have things scheduled to a T, which is great. But you're also flexible, right?
Yeah,
which is important as well, because things fall apart, and then you just start kind of like slashing off the things that were like nice to haves, not need to haves on your list. But yeah, I think that communication with the group, and the more you go back to the theme parks too, those lists change dramatically. Like I remember when we would go to Epcot and we would rope drop Frozen, and then it turns out that we were now rope dropping Soren, and now we're rope dropping Test Track. Do you know what I mean? Like
Right.
it just,
Yeah.
it's very funny as like intensity and interests. And then I had to explain virtual cues with Cosmic because they were like, why are we not rope dropping Cosmic, you fool? That's like the best ride here. I'm
Right.
like, it's a
Right.
virtual cue.
We can't.
All right, get
We
off my
can't.
back. I already have it. We're good. So it's
too
funny,
funny.
just but like that communication is key, and even throughout the day, just like recognizing and asking like potty breaks and all that stuff is like super important with kids. Like
Yeah.
I force them to do that
Yeah.
because like they're not going to necessarily tell you that stuff because they're having so much fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what is it like when you kind of approach that with your daughters when you ask them about what they want to do? Because I know we do that too, but I'm curious to hear kind of what your conversation with them typically sounds like.
So our because we have a higher frequency than you guys, it's probably sounds different. It's typically we're about to like we're on our way, and maybe about 30 minutes before we actually get there, it'll be okay. What's the most important thing at the park that we're going to? And then in the morning, what's the most important thing? And then I kind of like, if we have to book lightning lanes, we'll talk about it that night and say, all right, what's the one thing you want to do? What's the one thing you want to do? So I ask both of them individually, and they know that they can't like, they might go like, because like somebody wants to do one thing that the other one doesn't.
Right.
But I said, listen, this is important. This is important because we all enjoy the parks differently. So we go on all the rides. But yeah, I mean, it's you just ask them and say like, hey, what do you want to do? All right, those are what we're doing. And then usually everybody groans.
Straight to the point.
Everybody groans at what Mel picks because she picks the park stuff.
Oh, we love Mel. Don't do that to her. Don't throw her under the bus when she's not here to defend herself. That is unfair.
It's totally fair.
But honestly, that is very similar to the conversation we have with my kids. It's usually about maybe 2-3 weeks before we start kind of formulating our game plan for our list of what we want to do. And it's just like, hey, kiddos, we can't do everything. So let's make the list of what's most important. And we go around the room and we literally all four of us pick one thing. And it's like, okay, that's our top list. Okay, now let's look at what else is in this park and let's make our like secondary list. And so we talk to them about exactly what you said. Like, this is our priority. And then this is the, oh, that'd be nice to do, but it's not a need to do. And then I make my list based off that. And again, yeah, it's important because if you're wanting to do anything with Genie Plus, or if you're someone who's utilizing like a DAS pass or anything like that, and you want to be able to plan that ahead, that's definitely important too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest struggle for most people who are unfamiliar with the new processes and systems that Disney puts in place, right? I think that's the most challenging thing, is recognizing how much planning goes into a day, whether that's the 60 days before for advanced dining reservations, whether it's just looking at, even me, I get goofed up all the time. They change their hours. Like, Fantasmic went off at 7:30 today.
Really?
Since when? It's been at 8 o'clock and 9:30 consistently since it reopened. It was at 7:30 today. I'm like, because I saw people streaming and I'm like, why are they streaming so early? Like, there's nothing going on for a while. And nope, boop, popped off. So I was like,
that's crazy.
You just have to always be cognizant of that My Disney Experience app, especially when you're getting closer and closer. One thing that people always ask me on the lives, how busy is it? What days should I go? What month should I go? And unfortunately, ever since the pandemic, we really don't have a great litmus for crowds and patterns. You can use certain things like your school holidays, national holidays, Run Disney Marathon, a really good concert lineup somewhere in Epcot. Like, all those things can help give you some inferences. But honestly, it's been busy because of the 50th mainly for a very long time. There really hasn't been everything's only 10 minutes. I think I've had that twice this year. And once was in September, but that's not the norm. So what I always recommend is, well, I do this at home anyway because I'm a weirdo, is I jump on the My Disney Experience app and I'll look at wait times, especially like a couple days leading into it. Because that's your closest like market knowledge of how are the wait times going to be. And then it also gets you used to opening up the app, looking at wait times, and making accurate decisions. Because right now in Magic Kingdom, I would always say the rope dropping has to be Jingle Cruise. That's the one that almost always has the largest line. It's a really hard lightning lane to get. And everyone has free access to that. There's not like a group that gets access to that before everyone else.
Right.
So, and it's such a great, fun Christmas overlay.
Absolutely, yeah. Super, super fun. And it's hard with the different holidays even to plan accordingly because some overlays exist all the time. Some overlays only exist during parties. And it's hard to kind of do that and figure that out when you're incorporating that into your plans. And that's where just that the research is so helpful. Or if you're using a travel agent, utilize their knowledge to be able to help you figure out and navigate kind of what is new to the time that you're going and what is like, okay, this is the same as what it's always been almost.
Yeah, people ask me a lot about party days, especially for Magic Kingdom. Like, should I go to Magic Kingdom that day that I have a party? And I always say no, because I feel like it's such a waste because you get to go in early. So if you get to go in, if the party starts at 7 and goes to midnight, you can get access at 4 p.m. That's your Magic Kingdom day, right? Or at least you'll get one or two rides in before the party, and then really the party should be to experience the things that are not open or are not unique exclusive experiences to that party. If you want to ride Splash Mountain, that's fine, but I recommend you do a separate day and do Splash Mountain, or do it right at 4 p.m. as soon as you get access in.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what we did when we went to the Halloween party. We didn't do a park that day. And then, yeah, we were at Magic Kingdom pretty much right at 4 o'clock. We got in. We ended up, long story short, we ended up using the previous day's lightning lanes for Seven Dwarves because a very kind cast member let us use them again because it had closed because of rain the night before. So he actually ended up letting us use those, which was not the norm. But then, yeah, we crammed in like 2 other rides and dinner before the party started. And then once the party started, it was, okay, what's the party stuff we want to do?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because I think a lot of people go like, "Oh man, it's going to be not that crowded. We can get on a bunch of rides," which is totally true. It's totally true. But I feel like you're not enjoying the party for what the party is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
if
the
you're
party
running
has so
around
many.
crazy,
Yeah, if you're just trying to
cram in all
ride
those
rides.
rides.
Because you're
Yeah.
you can't even do all of the party stuff, let
No,
alone
it's
ride
so
rides and the
hard.
party stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
So.
it's so hard. I mean, we made a list of the stuff for the Halloween party just like we do for normal park days. And we got through our priorities, but it was like that secondary list. We got through very little of it because it was just so much to do. But we still had a blast and the kids
Yeah.
loved it and ended up with giant bags of candy. So it was a win-win for everybody.
I didn't have to buy candy this year because of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and Busch Gardens Spooktacular. So thank you for paying. Dude, candy was expensive this year. It was like
Yeah.
$30 for like 100
Yeah.
pieces. I'm like, okay, that
Right.
seems fair. It's just sugar, but Sheena asked a great question. At 4 p.m., are there long lines to get into the park for the party? There are, but they have also like staging areas and whatnot. I don't know. How did you guys manage the lines?
So ours was a little bit different. We didn't have to wait in the typical queue outside of Magic Kingdom that was very, very long. It was all the way back to almost to where like the sign is for the bus stops.
Yeah,
Whenever
that's
we
long.
got there, but we had to go to guest services because of the lightning lane issue. So we had to wait in that line, and then guest services has their own little tap style off to the side that once you wait in their line, you can just go in that tap style. So we ended up doing that. We probably waited longer than we would have in the typical queue because it was moving fairly quickly. They had a lot of people there helping because it was pretty much knowledge that anyone that was tapping in at the time was tapping in for the party. But the lines were long because then you had to get the wristband. So that extra step of the wristband slows it down a little bit.
Now, if you're an annual pass holder or you're staying there multiple days, where it makes sense for you to have like a 7-day ticket or something like that, where you're like, okay, whatever, it's $10 for an extra day. While you're already into the park, you can get all of your party credentials. You don't have to like exit and re-enter, which is really, really nice.
Yeah, so especially if any of you that are going to Christmas parties, I know a couple people in my chat were talking about the Christmas party. That is definitely something that you can do. So don't feel like you have to exit and re-enter because you don't want to wait in that line. There's no need for that.
No,
You're already
no.
in the park.
No, for sure. And real quick, Megan, I'm not going to harp on this long. Do the shows, do the parades, do any of the ride overlays that are exclusive to the party, and enjoy all the cookies and hot chocolate eggnoggy stuff. And if there's any characters that are very specific to that, do them. And that pretty much covers you off on the exclusive things. That would be I hate to say like those are the must-dos, but if you're going to the party, do all the party stuff the best you can.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and if
look
you're
at exclusive snacks too. Pick up
Yeah,
that.
so if you're looking for more information about the Christmas parties, the last episode that Kate and I did of Mom Street is all about everything Christmas, Disney World, Disneyland parties, all of the above. So that is available on our podcast and our YouTube channel. So if you missed that and are looking for Christmas party information, now it's just more general information there, not like opinions on things. But that is there for you if you need it. So let's jump back in. What was your kids' first rides at Disney? Do you remember what their first rides were that they went on?
Oh man, that's a great question. You know what? I know that the first trip, so the first place that we went to was Magic Kingdom. I think we only did Magic Kingdom and maybe for a day. I don't think we even did like 2 days. I think we might have done like a resort day. Yeah, I think it was just Magic Kingdom. Definitely did Haunted Mansion, definitely did Pirates. We probably did Peter Pan, Winnie the Pooh, anything that they could physically ride and get on without ride requirements, they would have been in. I do know that my kids really gravitated towards two rides early on, and that was Peter Pan and Haunted Mansion. Like, I have some great pictures of me with the girls. We were in ponchos, and like we're holding them in ponchos outside the mansion. And then afterwards we come out and the girls would just be like talking nonsense about ghosts. It's hysterical. And I have like all these great like memories and videos of that. Obviously I'm a little bit biased. I'm like, let's go on Haunted Mansion.
Well, but that's so fitting for you that they
forever,
that they love Haunted Mansion so much. Like you
Yeah.
couldn't ask for a better option for them.
Yeah, like it's funny because I go in there and people like even grown adults are sometimes like nervous on that or Tower of Terror or whatever, and my kids are just like, why are they nervous? I'm like, I don't know. You tell me.
Because they've probably ridden it, 25, 30 times at least
Yeah,
by now.
yeah. I mean, like those things are so much fun to them. Like they look forward to those things. Our kids also like. I have a group. I have a buddy who they didn't put their kids on roller coasters for a very long time. So even when they got them to like a boardwalk with a little wild mouse or the dragon bubbles coaster, like really, really tiny stuff, they would get super nervous at like 6. I'm like, dude, I like would shove them on at 2 and 3. Like as long as they were tall enough and safe enough, like you're going because this is what we do as a family. So you are in this family. This is what we do. And we instilled that in them, and now they're like freaks for everything. Roller coasters, all of it. They're in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Kate and I talked about way back in like one of our first episodes about like, you got to know your kid. And if you know and you feel like your kid can handle it, then encourage them to do it. But like if you have a kid that you know gets sick in the car, just driving around the city, maybe don't put them on a roller coaster quite yet. So it definitely helps, you got to know what your kid is capable of.
I would say this though too, if you know that it's something that is just like, for example, Haunted Mansion is a good one. It's not a physically demanding attraction, but it definitely has elements of fear. But you know that there's like fear and fun. The way that you frame things, because I've seen there's 2 ways that you can frame it as a parent. Like, okay, we're gonna see some really spooky things that might like jump out at you. It might look scary, right? Like that's one way to frame it. There's the other frame to be like, this is all fun. And like at the very end of this, there's like a dance party with a bunch of ghosts singing and dancing. Like there's 2 different ways to frame that experience. I see a lot of people frame with like fear versus like framing the fun. Because it is fun to get scared. That is totally true. But you don't have to let your kids know that this is a scary ride. We're going to be going on a scary ride now. So this scary, like don't stop talking about scary ride. Just say like, let them experience it. Let them figure out for themselves. Maybe even I always like to do distractions. Sometimes it's like, all right, who can count how many gargoyles are in the, like just come up with whatever you want. And like those distractions also will help placate because their mind is not necessarily fixated on an environment that they're not necessarily comfortable on. So
yeah, and that's exactly what we did. Like my kids know we always talk about going on a Haunted Mansion. They're like, Haunted Mansion is just silly spooky. It's not really spooky. It's like
right,
it's just
and that's
fun,
what it is.
And they're trying to spook you, and Mimi will go, well, I'm gonna scare them. They're not gonna scare me.
See? That's like instills confidence in your kids too. Like all that stuff is great. I love that.
Yeah, they love it.
Scared that.
You can see her saying that though, can't you?
Yeah.
That's what she talks about.
She's like a little you, so it's hysterical. Like every time I see her, I'm just like, this is Jacque walking around.
Yep. She's my little mini me. So,
She's
it is what it
identical.
is. Yeah.
It is.
Well, and my kids are pretty good about, in all things in life, we've instilled in them, like, okay, I want you to try it once. And then if you really don't like it, you don't have to do it again.
Yeah,
We do that with
which is totally
food, we
fair.
do that with rides. We do that with all sorts of stuff. It's like, we want you to try it once. And if you don't want to do it again, you can make that decision.
I totally agree. I think what happens is people give in to, like, it's like a roller coaster, right? Sometimes roller coasters can be good or bad. It doesn't really matter. But that initial apprehension and fear usually is the thing that's holding people back from having a good experience. And then once they ride it, they're like, "Oh, that wasn't so bad." Like, how many times as a parent you're like, "Oh, that wasn't so bad," and you're like, "Yeah, I know. That I was trying to tell you that the whole time." You know? Thank you, Sonia, for all the.
Yeah.
Sorry, podcasters. I'm getting kitty cat paws over here.
Those fun TikTok gifts we get. Well, it's like my kids on Cosmic this last time. We talked to them about it's going to be super fun. It's going to be fast, but that's part of what makes it fun. My son literally the entire time was like this. But we got off the ride and he was like, "Mommy, that was so much fun. Can we go again?" I was like, "Oh, we can't go again, but I'm really glad you had a good time."
Yeah.
And the ride photo was literally him but he loved it. He's like, "It was so much fun."
When our girls started going to the first like roller coasters, it reminds me so much of that. Like his ride photo, like our girls couldn't keep their heads up when we would go on. I think it was not Gonzo. What's like the Sesame Street version of Gonzo? Shoot, I can't remember what his name is. Grover. Yeah, Grover and Gonzo to me are like very similar, right?
Right. I mean, yeah.
So Grover has a coaster in Langhorne, PA, at Sesame Place, and every time we would go around this one turn, which is where the photos are, their heads would be like this because of the G-forces. And I'm like, "Lift your heads up," and they'd be like, and then eventually, they grow older and all that stuff, and they can like manage it more. But yeah, it is funny to see their reactions. I remember I took the girls for their first time on an upside down roller coaster this year at Busch Gardens. So they did Cobra's Curse, and I've been trying to get them on this one because they're old enough to do it. Because the very first looping coaster for both Melanie and myself was at Hershey Park called the Super Duper Looper, and they have one. It's called the Scorpion at Busch Gardens in Tampa, and it's just like a small little loop, but it's a big kid-ish coaster. It's smaller than Cobra's Curse, but it does do a loop. And I filmed both of them on it, and they were both horrified of the concept of going upside down. So that video of them on their very first looping coaster in the loop was just like. It's like it must have been the most ridiculous thing, because you don't really necessarily feel it, it's just like because it happened so quickly, but the visuals had to have been like, this is too much.
The instant reaction in the moment where they're just like horrified.
And
then did they love it when they got off?
So they both, I recorded the reactions. The younger one was a little bit more trepidatious than the older one. The older one liked it a little bit more. But we honestly haven't really gone back because it's not that smooth or that fun of a roller coaster. It's just like to get the loop out of the way. But they would really love if they could get on like some of the bigger coasters that, like a Cheetah Hunt, which goes upside down, which is like very smooth. Like they could handle Cheetah Hunt right now and they'd be gold.
Yeah. Yeah. Todd is in here reminding me, yes, my son was not a fan of Splash Mountain. And that was one of the rides that like, okay. And I told him we're going to try it. And if you don't like it, then we don't have to do it again. And we went down the first little hill, the little one to start, and got splashed up all on this side. And he was like, "I don't like this anymore." And I was like, "Well, kid, sorry, we're on the ride. There's nothing I can do about it now. So just hang in there. You can make it to the end. I know you can do it." And
was
then
it more
we got
the water?
Off the end. Yeah. Yeah. Again, and he's one of those kiddos that he's got some sensory quirks, and water has been one of them. He's been better about it recently because like he had soccer games in the rain and stuff this fall and it didn't faze him. But yeah, and then you see him on our ride photo, his head is completely into my stomach as we're going down the hill and he's just like hiding hardcore, and he still like got wet and cried. And a lot of you watched my because I live streamed it and a lot of you were on there with me, and he was I think at the end he was like, "This is stupid. I don't like it." It's like, well, okay, you're allowed to have that opinion, and if you don't ever want to go on Splash Mountain again, you don't have to. But he'll probably go on it at least once more, because once it changes over, I think he'll want to go on it.
Yeah, probably check it out again. And you never know if they outgrow it, right? Like I remember our youngest, similar sensory things like wet and all that stuff. There was a period where we went through with getting our shoes wet was like a big thing. Like we didn't like getting our shoes in grass and getting wet. I'm like, that's why you wear shoes, is so that your feet, your tootsies don't get drenched. And that was like a whole thing. Like we would have to like get in the car and then like wipe our feet real good, and like we'd freak out if there was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
The things we do for kids.
Right. Yeah. So we have several of those experiences where it's like they tried something, they loved it, or they tried something and they're like, no,
not
thanks.
So much.
Tour guide Barbie hopped on here and said, "Whoa, Kate looks different." Yeah, Kate is in Disneyland for anyone who missed it. So Kirk graciously agreed to join me on this evening's show. So we've talked a lot about rides. Let's talk a little bit more about food. What are some of the places that you have enjoyed dining or maybe not enjoyed dining with your kids?
Oh, this is a great question because certain parks are better with food than others, although every single park will have your traditional hot dog, a chicken, fried chicken of some sort. It might be a chicken tender. It might be a chicken nugget, which can be a big thing. Like the way that they make, like there isn't like a, you know what, dear Disney, please make a Mickey-shaped chicken nugget that's available on all menus. Because that doesn't exist, right? Like our kids would definitely get down on them. But like I remember we went to one place and it was like grilled chicken chunks, and I was like, this is not gonna work. But
right.
So yeah, I mean, there's certain things depending on your kids' taste and needs and how explorative they are. But you can pretty much find pizza, hot dogs, French fries, peanut butter and jelly, like the little Smuckers things anywhere. Corn dog nuggets are good. You know, I wouldn't say that there's like one place that's better than others. I would say at any of the quick services where you can get breakfast, Mickey waffles crush. Like we could do Mickey waffles and bacon, and we actually probably could live off of just that. Like all of us, all four of us would be good with Mickey waffles and bacon. So, and we honestly, we don't really do now, especially that we're down here, we don't really do a lot of table service. So like if we go away, typically it's for like a weekend. So it might be 3 days or 2.5 days. We'll do one table service max per trip. And then everything else is either packed in or quick service or lots of sharing. We do lots of like, we'll get a pretzel and everybody will take a piece of it. And like we're grazers. We're big like roving grazers, not like sit down. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Kathy is saying that 1900 Park Fair by far was their favorite whenever they went, and that her daughter also loved Pecos Bills.
Yeah, you know, 1900 Park Fair was an awesome. I loved that meal because I thought it was affordable for a character dining, and they had really great protein and all those options. Like I thought it was cool. Plus that strawberry soup that's chilled is really wild. It's very different. It's really good too.
Yeah, that is a really different one for sure. So your girls are pretty much the standard. They want the chicken fingers, the hot dogs, those types of things whenever you guys go.
There's nothing. The one thing that they have to eat every single day on a trip is a Mickey pretzel at some point. And they're so gross, they eat it without cheese. I'm like, it's just like me watching them eat wood. They're like beavers. I'm like, you're eating a bag of sawdust. I don't know how you do this. Like, there's other good pretzels. Like, let's go get a good pretzel. But no, they like their Mickey pretzels. God. Mickey pretzels, popcorn, like those are their staple snacks. And then we'll treat once during a trip. And now they're older, so we can't get away with sharing. Everyone has to get their own Mickey Premium bar at some point. Yeah. Those are like the musts. But no, they don't really explore a lot of crazy menus. And I think that's also another reason why we don't do a lot of table service, especially all you care to enjoy ones now that they cost money, because I'm not enjoying watching them eat so little. So I'm literally like
eating for them and yourself.
Yeah. Mel, line your purse with a trash bag because we're going to be dumping platters into it. This is coming home. We need to get some
Oh
money
my
out of
God.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. People in my comments are chiming in on their favorites. So Abby said Space 220 is great. Barbie says I love the kids buffet areas. They offer so many different places. And yeah, people talking about missing the meal plans that had the
I
snack
so
points for
so
them.
I love Space 220, but I love Space 220 as the lounge. So I recommend to everybody, save yourself the money. You can eat pretty much everything that's on the prefix, but at least 50% off by going and just buying a la carte what you want rather than doing the prefix, which is so dramatically overpriced. It's hard to get a reservation, but it's not hard to get in. If you get there at like 10:45, they open at 11, and the lounge is not like you're sitting at a bar. There are 20 bar tops or bar seats, and then there's, I don't know, there's probably like 10 two tops and about 15 four tops. So a family of four, and you get the entire experience. You go up, you go down the elevator, the whole thing, and you get to sit in that giant room. Like 1/4 of that whole entire restaurant is the lounge, and I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to get in there, and you can save a ton of money.
Yeah, for sure. So if you were to pick at each park one quick service to visit with kids and one table service, what would your choices be?
Okay, in Magic Kingdom, oh,
It's hard.
no, you know what it is? I didn't know which way I wanted to frame it. Did I want to frame it as where do I think my kids are going to be the most successful for eating, or if I'm coming on a trip, what do I think would be like the most fun experience for them? So like I'm working between those two things.
You can give us a little bit of both. I'm sure the listeners will not be opposed to multiple opinions.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you two for table service at Magic Kingdom. I'm going to say for like atmosphere and kiddos like eating, and then like my enjoyment too, because they really like the environment there, is Skipper Canteen. There's so much stuff for them to look at, which is awesome. I love that. And they have really good kids snack like style meals. Like they're not crazy, they're not wild, even though the menu is very adventurous for adults. It's a very affordable and fun environment for kids. They love the dad jokes and everything. And they love looking at like the butterfly collection and just everything that's in those rooms and spaces. Plus they have a really good bathroom in there too. And then Be Our Guest. It's just it's unparalleled. However, it's you're going there to step into the movie. You're stepping into Beauty and the Beast. We do find ourselves at Gaston's a lot. Almost always we get a cinnamon bun for one of our breakfasts, and all four of us just take a little piece and dip it. Like that's our go-to. But yeah, Be Our Guest is great. It's just a little pricey, but you're paying for the atmosphere. The food quality is still really good, and your kiddos will have fun. They used to have like a paint the chip cup, like little white chocolate cup that they would paint with like an edible paint, and that was a fun dessert. I always remember there's a place called Spoodles where you can make your own pizza, and you would dip a paintbrush in sauce and put it on the crust and then add your cheese and pepperoni. And I thought that was really fun. And so I just think of like interactive stuff. And then for quick service, I'm probably going Casey's here, just because, who doesn't like hot dogs and corn dog nuggets? That stuff's so approachable to most kids. And French fries. Like our kids eat French fries a lot. Sometimes that's a meal for them, is just like the side of fries that comes with one of our meals that we're sharing.
Tour guide Barbie is saying, I loved Spoodles in all caps in my chat.
She gets it.
Too fun. All right, so that covers us on Magic Kingdom. What about the other parks?
Okay. Let's go to Animal Kingdom. And I would say either for quick service, I like... For your kids actually eating, it's going to be Pizzafari because it's just super easy to get pizza, and every kid eats pizza. But I think Restaurantosaurus is another great option because once again, it's a really cool environment. Kids really like dinosaurs. It's fun in there. And then the Boneyard is relatively close. So, if you eat really well, we can spend time in the Boneyard. Here comes bribery. And then for a table...
all do it. It's fun.
Yeah, totally. For a table service, it's a little tougher because everything's pretty elevated. So I'm going to do a slightly different decision here. And I'm going to put us over into Nomad Lounge. And I'm going to place us right next to the railing so that we can watch the flotillas, which are the floating cavalcades. So you can see characters. That way, mom and dad can get themselves an adult bevy if they want. But then they also have the best churros on property are there. So the kiddos will like that. And they have like lots of like good picky foods. So it doesn't have to necessarily be like a big meal. But I think that's a good sit down spot. All right, heading over to Hollywood Studios, Pizza Rizzo all day, every day. It's just go up to that dance party room, the banquet hall. My girls love to spank the planks or cut the rug up there. They love all the old school music, and
I just wish they were open longer.
Yeah, it does think that they close at 5. However, this is my cap. So we actually are a studios at night family. We never rope drop studios ever, unless we're there for like a lot of days, which almost never happens. We're usually just there for a weekend. So we'll do studios at night, and when we do studios at night, we almost always try to we rope drop Pizza Rizzo before they close. And if they close though, Catalina Eddie's sells the exact same pizza. And they're open until 9. So that's a good little hack if you need to still find pizza that's the small, little, tiny kids ones. The sides change out a little bit. Like I forget if they drop Danimals. Like our girls do like the smoothies still as sides. And then oh my gosh, this is the greatest table service ever for kids in Hollywood Studios. We do go to prime time a lot, but the one, if we can get it, which is so hard, Sci-Fi. Yeah. I get requests from our kids. Are we going to Sci-Fi Drive-In? And I'm like, Daddy's not that talented at getting ADRs anymore because I don't plan 60 days in advance, so I have to stalk it. And sometimes we get lucky, sometimes we don't. But yeah. That leads us to Epcot. Epcot, I would probably take the kids to. I'm going to go to Creations. There's enough now at Creations that I think is approachable for everybody, and that chicken sandwich is so spectacular for adults. But I think their pizzas are decent there now. The waffles, if you want to feed them sugar, you can give them the Liege waffles. And then I'd probably say and there's lots of seating too. And now that they don't just let anybody sit during like high peak times, it's easier to get a seat, which is actually kind of nice. I like that they have like a dining bouncer, which is annoying, I guess, for some guests, but I kind of like it in there because it's so busy.
Do in peak hours now. We ran into that a lot, which was fine because it was our mobile order's ready. Like, can we come in, please?
Yeah. The bouncers are out in full force. And then for sit down, I like Tepanito. It's a show. It's fun. There is, our kids like noodles and stuff like that. So all the food there is not that far out of them. Usually what happens is the girls get edamame and then we get meals, but they like watching all the stuff, you know? Garden Grill is good too, but it's an all you care to enjoy. So I just feel like I'm wasting my money, even though the characters are cute.
Yeah. You definitely have to consider those buffet style if it's really going to be worth your money or not when you take your kids, because like you said, sometimes they'll just eat this tiny little plateful and you're like, I paid a lot of money for you to be here.
And that's correct, Sheena. The way you described it is exactly correct for quick service. Is basically you need to have your food or a mobile order to be able to get access to the seating.
Yeah. And the majority of places we ran into when we were down in October were that way, but some of them weren't. Some of them were just there was nobody at the door, or there were people at the door there to answer questions, but they didn't care if you just walked in and sat down. So it's kind of 50-50 on that.
Creations is probably the most strict about it. And then I would say, and that's probably because a lot of people are waiting for virtual queues for Guardians. So there's not that much seating. That's why they added in that breezeway all those different benches. That didn't exist when that first opened up. So I feel like that was important for them to stage people. And that's also probably why the Odyssey is still getting used quite a bit now. And that has great. I love that they do live performances in there with music. So
yeah, that's a really great feature that they added.
Exactly
when we ran into the food bouncer at Satuli Canteen when we went.
Oh, dude, they're serious.
Yeah.
You're right. They're
Yeah.
like one of the hardest food bouncers to get by.
Yeah. And like it wasn't even like ours was like, you know how you get the little green loading thing on your
Yeah.
screen as they're like preparing it. Ours was like towards the end and he's like, "Nope, can't let you in yet." And then they made us go get our food before we sat down. So we had to like take our whole stroller with us through the line. They wouldn't let, like, I was trying to like let my husband go and I was going to get the food and they were like, "Nope, you got to stay together." It's like, "Okay, yep, we'll follow your rules,
It's
whatever you need us to do."
It's so you actually deal with two food bouncers there. You deal with the food bouncer that wants to see your mobile order. That's like right at the front to get to the outside area. And then you deal with the secondary one that needs to see
Yeah.
that the mobile order is done and like
Yeah.
ready to go for pickup.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say about Satuli is sit inside. Most people panic. They see all these people. They're hawking tables. I don't like having to scout for tables. Like that makes me very uncomfortable. I don't want to bother anybody. If somebody's cleaning up, that's different, but I still don't like to be the guy who's like standing right on top of somebody while they're
Right.
cleaning up their stuff. I don't like it. And I am always because I feel that anxiety that when we're getting ready, I'll see somebody in the like the deer in headlights thing, and I'm like, "You could take this table." Like I'm like, and then
Right.
I'm like
No, I do the
cleaning it
same
up real
thing.
nice because like I just stress out about that.
Right.
But Satuli is one of those ones where once you get through the second food bouncer and you're inside, there are plenty of tables. I've never been
Yeah.
in there where there's zero tables inside. Outside, whole other story. That's like
Yeah.
that's yeah.
Yeah, we ran into the same thing because I was worried. Like, you know, they were making everyone wait outside. It's like, oh, they must be like really, really slammed and like super full. And then we got inside and around, you know, after we picked up our food and it was like, oh, there's like 20 tables that I can see from where I'm standing. Okay, that's cool. Let's decide where we want to sit. Like, not a huge
I like
deal.
I love the music in Satuli too. It's really really nice in there. It's definitely like it's got this great relaxing ambiance. It's like almost like somebody's sitting in there with a rain stick and a pan flute, and I'm just like, ooh. It's like, is this
It's
a
a-
spa?
Yeah, it's a total vibe in there. It's very relaxing. It's very nice to eat your meal with that lovely ambiance around
But just
you.
go inside, otherwise it's Lord of the Flies outside, and they will call you piggy and hit you with a rock. So trust me, don't get it. Sorry, anybody read literature here? I don't know how well read your audience is.
Oh my god. All right. Well, hot takes with Kirk from Walrus Carp. No.
It's true. It's true. Don't sit outside. It's the truth.
So we touched on this a little bit earlier. We talked about kind of what age do we think is perfect for the parks from your experience. So tell us a little bit about kind of your experiences with the ages that you've taken your girls to the parks, because we've already kind of hit on what your opinion is on the perfect time.
Yeah. So, I mean, the perfect time is when your family can go. That's the perfect time, right? Whether that's like an affordability thing or a timing off thing. I love taking kids when they're young and they're more affordable. But I personally, I mean, our girls are 4.5 and 6 now, and they're at an awesome age where they can get on almost every attraction. There's only like a handful that they can't, and they just really appreciate and enjoy things, and they can communicate more about what is important to them and how they want to experience the park. So those aspects I really, really like.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have anything really good, dude. Like, there's nothing really good besides like
you're
take them when
fine.
they're free and
Yeah.
go when you can bring your kids.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like there's no like perfect anything. It's just like take your kids.
And I agree
go
with
have
that
fun.
too, because I mean, we're at the point where like my kids are really, really close to the same age as your kids. So that's exactly it. Like, it's so much fun to take them now. Like, we took them both when they were free, and it was more of like, okay, where do we think they want to go? But now that they're a little bit older, it's super fun because they have opinions on what they want to do and what they don't want to do, and it's fun to let them help in that planning process, I think, too, for sure.
Agreed.
So what are some of your favorite parenting hacks when you go to the park? Because you are the king of hacks, snacks, and fun facts, but what about the parenting aspect of it? Things that you have found really help your trips go smoothly with your kids.
Umbrella strollers. No double strollers, please. And if you're going to do a double stroller, at least do one that's like the inline, not the side by side. And
Yep.
this is for you parents. This is not for your kids. This is for you and your sanity because I nothing is more frustrating than watching families push double strollers in theme parks. It is horrendous. They look so uncomfortable and annoyed because everyone cuts in front of you. ECVs will cut in front of you, kids will cut in front of you, and you're just waiting. Umbrella strollers, Mel and I can be like bob and weave, right? So, and the other thing too is we try to avoid all transportation that requires us to collapse them. So Skyliners are good, monorails are good, ferry boats you're sometimes good. It depends on which boat you go on. I think I said Skyliner you're good, and then buses are the one that we avoid buses at all costs because nothing is more damaging to your psyche than having to like battle with a stroller. So, and know how to use your stroller effectively.
Yeah.
Don't bring like a stroller you just bought. And then here's just stroller tips in general. If you're going in August, make sure you bring a stroller cover, a rain cover, and we'll throw stuff in those strollers to keep them dry. And it's nice to have that carrying space. Rechargeable fans are really good for your kids too. The ones that like clip on. We have clip on like oscillating ones that we got that have like lithium chargers. We got them on Amazon pretty affordable too. I think they were like $20. And
Yeah.
our kids love it because they can regulate the speed of it or shut it off. And it's always a point of contention. Did you shut off your fan? So, but
Constantly monitoring each other
Yeah.
about it.
yeah. So, and then, so those are all like stroller hacks. I'm trying to think of other big ones.
You talked a little about kind of sharing snacks and popcorn. What have you
Oh
found
yeah,
about
yeah.
snacking kind of through the parks?
We don't really buy a lot of kids snacks. So for typically we'll pack in applesauces, peanut butter crackers are big with our girls, like those kind of things. A couple gummies, and then those are like fruit snacks. We call them gummies
Yeah.
here. I don't know why we call them gummies, but whatever. They're fruit snacks, or like those fruit strips, stuff like that. We always pack in water. We never really pay for drinks at the parks. So refill stations of water, we're always on top of that. So like the girls have their own individual waters and mom and dad, we have our own individual waters and we always refill them up, especially at quick service places where it's cold and clean. And then when we do purchase snacks, we'll allow the girls to get one of the sour bag treats per trip, and they'll pick it like their first day. They'll pick one thing, and then that'll always be with us in our park bag snacks. And then popcorn buckets, we probably refill once a day or once every other day of a popcorn bucket refill. At $2.25, it's so affordable and it doesn't go bad. It's awesome when you're a parent exhausted and you're like, I just need something, and you're in the bathroom alone scrolling TikTok at 11 o'clock eating popcorn. It's awesome, trust me. It's like just hits different. So
Well, speaking of popcorn buckets, I've had several people ask me recently if you didn't know if you have popcorn buckets from previous trips, bring them back with you because they will still honor that refill for you. So even if you bought it 2, 3, 4 years ago, bring it back with you. I've actually had that question several times recently for whatever reason.
Well, no. It's a great question because it says like
Yeah.
to length of stay. There is 0 CMs that will go, and if you bring a popcorn bucket and go like, well, how long were you here for? And it's not like they're RFID chipping them like they do the cups now, but
The mugs, right?
yeah, like they do with the mugs. So yeah, I mean, bring whatever popcorn bucket you have. You could find really affordable popcorn buckets too online before your trip. I've even seen them in thrift stores too. Got to clean them out, but like for $2, you're getting a popcorn bucket that it's just generic. You just want to fill it with popcorn. Like who cares?
Right.
Mel sent me a text while we're live right now. So this is incoming from Mel. It pops up on the
All right.
top still. It's a good one. And I know you've mentioned this before because you do it. Dollar Tree, snap bracelets, necklaces, anything that's glow in the dark, those fun. Like this, we did the sunnies once, like the fake sunglasses.
Those are awesome.
They love those things, especially now, even more so because the parks get so dark because of daylight
Yeah.
savings early. Like they can like snap out those glow stick guys, which is awesome.
Yeah, those are always a lifesaver for us. Like even our last trip, my kids did not ask
Hmm.
once for anything off of those glowing carts because they knew and they were excited about the fact that we had glow sticks with us because it's not something we
Yeah,
use frequently.
right.
It's usually just like a special occasion thing. So we had to restock this time. We bought like a tube of like 500 of them off of Amazon. So
Sure.
like every day we would pack a giant handful with some of the connectors, and they knew as soon as it got dark, one of them, Mom, can we get the glow sticks out? It's like, yep, absolutely. And then it's like, you'll see, I've got videos posted on my TikTok of my kids at the Halloween parade, and they're like playing around with their glow sticks while they're watching the parade go by. It's just like, okay, we're happy, we're good to go. And they like literally not once did they ask for anything off of those crazy carts with all the glowing everything.
Well, so all right, I'm going to put a pin in that because I think I have a good suggestion that's a hack for a lot of people to save money, especially because these park trips are so expensive. But because you have so many glow sticks, have you ever tried to do, have you ever done a like nightclub style bath before where you shut out the lights and let the kids have the glow sticks in the
No.
bath? Ooh, it's a good one because they throw them in the water
Okay.
and then the water starts glowing.
Yeah.
Trust me, your
I'll have to
kids will
keep
like
that in
it.
mind.
You play
My
some
kids are
music.
very my kids are very much in the I'm too old for baths. I want to take a shower mode, so I may have to like string them up on like the shower curtain or something.
Well, let them do this. Let them in the
Have their own dance party in the shower. All right.
For those
Sounds
that are
good.
listening, I was doing a fake rave motions with my arms. So, all right, souvenirs. This is a big one. This is a huge one. So, the way that you stifle some of that is you have agreements up front and you also kind of front load things. So, what I mean by that is you can pick up things at the Dollar Tree or at your local Walmart. Or if you don't feel like packing and bringing it, you could always go to a local store that's off property if you wanted to, although that's more challenging. But purchasing gifts ahead of time, what we do is we go to the Disney Character Warehouse, and like Numo's clothes are $1.99. Normally in the parks, they're anywhere from $12 to $20 for an outfit, right? So if I can get, I'll literally buy 20 outfits, right? And then we'll bring them to the parks, or we'll do what we call Tinkerbell gifts. A Tinkerbell gift is when they have good behavior. Tinkerbell was watching. It's kind of like Elf on the Shelf. Tinkerbell watches throughout the day to make sure that they're doing good. And if they have appropriate behavior, they might get blessed with a little bit of pixie dust from Tinkerbell. And in the morning, there might be gifts in the hotel. And it's
So
typically,
cute.
it's for us, it's $4 to have two different costumes, but then they now can dress up their Numos in something new and they bring them in the parks. Our girls love bringing magnetic little toys to the parks, particularly the plushes. Numos have magnets in their hands so they can stick them against all the railings everywhere or on anything that they get stanchions.
Yeah.
So those are great. The Porgs also have them on the bottom or anything that's like a
The like
shoulder
shoulder
ones.
pals. Yeah.
Those work
Yeah.
really well too. But Katie, was that Katie? Katie O mentions like Five Below bubble wands. Like there's any of that stuff that you can maybe bring ahead of time. And then there's always something that your kids are going to want that you can't get anywhere else besides the parks. So what we typically will do is we'll allow them to get that one thing somewhere with a reasonable budget, around 20, $25, at the end of the trip so that they've like all the good behavior has been rewarded to something that they really wanted in the parks so that we're not like constantly in this battle of like, I want. A big thing for us is we now do, like if they need to go into a store rather than like grab their arm and like race out the exit of Frozen, like to the left rather than letting them look. I feel like that, like it just removes all the power from your kids and they're like, they get angry with you that they aren't allowed to be treated a little bit differently in the sake of them being able to make their own decisions. So
Right.
what we allow our kids to do is browse for maybe what that one item will be. And and they now can read and they can tell prices. So we give them their budget. They can go around, they look, and they think. They think over the next couple days in all the stores that they're in and then they make their decision and then that's the one thing. So
Yeah, well, I think it's all about how you approach it with them, because we do something, again, very similar, but it's also the like reminding them like, hey, we talked about this is your budget. So if you want to get that, this is your one thing. And if you see something else later on, the answer is going to be no, because this is your one thing. So if you're sure that's what you want, then we'll get it. That's not a problem. So it's all about that approach with your kids and giving them, like you said, that power to make that decision.
yeah,
I mean, if they're old enough, obviously your younger kids, maybe not quite as much, but
it was big when we started allowing them to window shop. It was really big because there was a struggle through gift shops before that. And when we allowed them to like make like a wish list in their heads of like, okay, well, look around and see what are the things that you're looking for, right? And that helped them feel more empowered. And I think that definitely took a lot of the angst out. And then they know that just like you guys do with your family, like there's a budget and they can only get one thing. So, make it count.
yeah. Right. And we do that towards the end of our trip too. We typically, thanks Rhonda for that. Howdy, 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 howdy. So we typically do that too. Why are you laughing at me?
Because you have a mustache.
Oh my goodness. But we typically do it towards the end of our trip too, because then they've had a chance to look. And it's always like, unless it's something that's very park specific, or like when we were at the Halloween party, like Halloween party specific that we knew we couldn't get somewhere else. We always want to make sure that like, okay, keep that in mind. And then we'll circle back around to it knowing that, okay, we're going to be in studios on our last day. And I know we can find that in studios type of deal. So you really got to kind of pay attention to what they're looking at to make sure you know where you can find it, or ask a cast member.
that can be a struggle for certain things because if you're going to a park and that's like park exclusive,
right,
then you might be out of luck because World of Disney doesn't always have everything.
Right.
And especially, I mean, this doesn't really happen with kids stuff as much because, and as a parent, you kind of know, all right, well, this is a plush. This plush is probably at other places. There's certain, they're not like picking like, oh, I want that lounge fly. Do you know what I mean? Like where you're like, bro, there's only one of them in the whole state of Florida, so we have to buy it now.
Right.
So.
Right, exactly. Well, and we also kind of guide our kids a bit. We let them look,
Sure.
But then it's like, hey, remember on our last trip we bought the Nuimos. Would you like to look at that type of stuff because you already have some of that you can build off of? Things like that. Or like, hey, we already have something a lot like this. Let's go over here and look at something different.
Lem is talking about budgets because he doesn't know what a budget is, and he's asking his mother for a Darth Vader pyre helmet, which I'm sure little Lem's mom would be very upset having to carry that out because it's hard for big Lem to carry it out.
If anyone missed that day on the stream, it's a good one. You should scroll back
on
Lem's
it was a
TikTok
sweaty multiple bench day. It was a lot. I feel like they should just have weights and then everybody just sponsors to make Lem carry the heaviest things out of the park. Be like, hey, can you buy that 75-pound dumbbell, Lem?
So if anyone who's listening or watching doesn't know who Lemuel is, he is at Magic Bands and Trash Cans here on TikTok, and he is another one of our friends who does quite frequent streams at Disney World in the mornings, his Disney Morning Walk and Talks. So definitely check him out. If you're on Kirk's side, it sounds like he's in the chat. If you're on my side, hop on over and give him a follow too. He's a good time.
Mm-hmm. He is expensive trash is the best way to put it. But he walks in Disney Monday through Thursdays. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
8-ish to 11. So catch him in the mornings if you'd like to join him there. So any other hacks that you can think of? We hit quite a bit. It was very informative and helpful. We've got lots of people in my chat saying, great ideas. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. I wish, honestly, that you guys had more access to the character warehouse because you would be like, oh my gosh, we can save so much money. But it's also so hit or miss whether you find things that are great. But I found Wishables for $2. I found Numos. Like there was the Bell Numo for $1.99. That's a steal because that's like normally like what $21.99, $22.99, something like that. So
the price just went up. I feel like for those.
They did Anna
as
and
my
also,
daughter started wanting all of the princess ones. It's like okay, we'll slowly build the collection because they are expensive.
They are, and they retire them too. It's not like they all like they just keep adding and bringing ones back. They definitely are retiring them.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I'm
Sheena, for the cat dolls.
fortunate enough to have an outlet nearby that does get some of that Nuimo stuff. So we have bought our kids' stuff there before. And I have a Stitch Nuimo, so I also buy my Stitch Nuimo things from my outlet store. Like he has a little tiny Loungefly backpack because it was like $1.99. And I was like, how can I not buy that?
Yeah, yeah, they're like legit. Like I just saw a Marvel one. I think that was like $20. I'm like, get them addicted to lounge flies early.
I know, right? It's crazy. It's crazy. Any funny stories from traveling experiences with your kids to Disney, to other big places? Just those off the wall stories of like anything could happen when you travel with kids.
I mean, our kids say like that show, Kids Say the Darndest Things. Well, that's
Yeah.
like our kids all the time. So like I'm always peeing myself like laughing because they are very funny, and as they get older, they're even funnier. But I wouldn't say funny necessarily because like all those things are like so small and minor. But sorry, I'm thinking there was one time we were on Peter Pan's flight, and they have in the queue you play this like Disney Play app, and they have like really bad dad jokes, and I forget the joke too. It was good, but it was an original. Like our oldest had an original joke that used like a pirate's R, but I forget what she was talking about that used the R. But anyway, something that was wild that happened to us with our kids is our youngest potty trained in the Magic Kingdom.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it was straight up. Well, our oldest was using the potty, and our youngest was still in diapers. And she goes, "I want to use the potty now." And boom, bam! In a weekend at
Oh
Disney,
my
potty
gosh.
trained, potty
That's
trained. She just
amazing.
refused. She was like, "I'm good. I'm ready." And where the other one took like a training potty and time and coaxing, this one's just like, "I already got this. What are you even talking about?"
The
Like,
parallels between our kids are hysterical to me.
oh yeah.
Because that is exactly my oldest was so hard to train. And then my youngest literally had her third birthday. We weren't pushing it with her, had her third birthday, and the next day decided, I'm just gonna go on the potty. And that was that.
Yeah, I feel like because they're the older one is like an explorer. They don't know what's safe, what's not safe. And
Right,
then
right.
the younger one has a pressure to be like the older one. So they catch up with a lot of things. Like our youngest linguistically and mathematically and even like socialization. I listen to the way that she talks sometimes. She was writing a book. Now she's in VPK, which is like I guess like before preschool. I don't know, very early pre. I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But
The year
she
before pre-K, before kindergarten.
right,
Gotcha.
something like that. And in a book that she wrote at school, it was like owls are nocturnal because they're out at night to hunt. And I was like, what are you writing this? Like who taught you any of this stuff? So it always cracks me up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Any extremely memorable moments, whether good, bad, in between, with your kids that you're like, when you think of previous trips with your kids, there's like one or two moments that like really stick out in your head.
I don't know if I have like specific moments like that. I like gratitude moments that are not forced. So when we might be like walking through a queue or a line or holding hands or something, and just they look at you and squeeze your little paw and say like, "I love you, thank you so much," like just randomly, and you
Yeah.
see them smiling. Like those are the things that I
Super
love the
special.
most. Right. I mean, I have a lot of just like little tiny moments where they're going off of rides for the first time, or they saw a character, or it's fun to see how they now interact with characters because they were really scared of like face characters didn't bother them, but like any of the fuzzy costume characters
Yeah.
horrified them for a bit. Like especially the Beast. I remember our youngest, when she saw the Beast, it was you couldn't get her off my leg. It was
Yeah.
just like so scared of this giant monster. Which honestly, she should be scared because
Right.
he'll yell at her if you touch a book in a West Wing. So whatever
Right.
that's about.
Right, right. You're like, okay.
Yeah, but there's I
Yeah.
mean. The other thing that happens with us is we go so much that it's hard for us to pull like that one moment. I do like my favorite thing about going with our girls, and it's just like going with somebody who's never seen a show or been on a ride before. It's being able to experience something with somebody for the first time makes me feel like I'm seeing it for the first time. And half the time I'm watching them and not even watching the experience or enjoying the experience. I'm more fixated on their reactions, and that's what makes the experience really fun for me. So that happens quite a bit. That even happens with adults. Like I was when May and I watched Fantasmic, like her crying during like Moana, I'm like, I get it, girl. Get after it. You know, like that's just like I think about all that stuff. Like that's just it's awesome to be able to share these connective moments, and it's not just with your kids; it's with a lot of people.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And some of those, it's so hard to like pinpoint specific experiences. Like you said, it's just the overall feeling of the day or that particular moment in time or whatever it may be, but it may not even have to do with a certain ride or character or not. It's just, sometimes it's just like sitting on Main Street with your family, like hanging out. Like it doesn't have to be some big extravagant experience.
I have a 2-minute video on my phone of the girls running around playing tag on the hub. There's nothing there, right? Like it's not like a big experience. It's not like a big expensive thing. It's just them playing with their shoes off, running around like a bunch of crazy people in the hub, which is totally acceptable because it's like it's caged in, right? Like they're not good. So and
I'm not going to go running down Main Street without you.
And I always love, like Mel and I will usually get like corn dog nuggets and just sit down, and the girls will like munch on some fries and then just race around, and like it's just like 20 minutes of just chill out while they're unwinding a little bit. And like that it's such like a nothing for most people, but it's an everything for me. And I watch those videos. We were watching Christmas videos on my older phone when the girls were really young, and I just like Mel and I were like, this is too much. It's so great that we can have all these moments in time and be able to experience them again. But man, does it go fast?
Yeah.
So capture those memories, not just in like video form, but like just go out there and experience them with each other. You know.
Yeah. So you talked about kind of, you know, taking some time to chill out. Where are some of the places that you and the family like to kind of relax and take a moment while you're in the parks?
Yeah, so we mentioned Hubgrass. Dara actually had 2 ones that we do. They're like almost mandatory. If we're in DAC, we're going in the boneyard. But the girl where I have anxiety is in the boneyard section. But where I have respite and relaxation is when we go over to the dig site, which is in the boneyard, but it's a big gravel pit. It's completely shaded. They have big old fans, and it's just gravel and digging stuff and trucks. And our girls just sit there and they build mounds and smash them and socialize with other kids. And Mel and I just sit off to the side and just chill. Yeah. So like that's a great one where they're being active and having fun. But I also am not stressed. Where in the boneyard section, I'm a helicopter dad. So like I chase them like up and down and around. And like I need to have eyes on them at all times because otherwise they're gone and somebody has them. Like I'm a freak. So, I'm terrible. At playgrounds, we're like that too. It's just like I worry about my kids because like they're the only things that I care about, right? Like there's like really nothing else is like our health and our family's health. So, I'm trying to think of like other really great places that we enjoy. So that's at DAC, that's at Magic Kingdom. We used to there was a good playground in Epcot too. Now they have like a really small one. It was where Earth Eats was always a really good, fun spot. Our girls really like to do the jumping fountains too. That's like a must over at so like if we ride Figment, I know I'm buying candy in the gift shop of Figment. That's where we always get our like sour candy treat. Yeah. We'll be there. And then we'll exit up and they have to go splash and make like fingerprint like drawings in the water. And like that's like they have so much fun doing that. And then I'm trying to think
really nice and like out of the way. Like unless you're exiting Figment, like there's not a ton of foot traffic over there. So it tends to be a little quieter, which is nice.
Yeah, we don't really like sit at a lot of places. It's usually we're in a confined area where they can like kind of mosey. Like
Yeah.
where Mel and I get some time, this almost always happens, is there'll be like an afternoon Epcot-ish, maybe day two, where they just want to chill and they'll get pushed around in the strollers, they'll be snacking, and Mel and I will be snacking. And sometimes, if we're really lucky, they'll go to sleep, and maybe we could sit and share a glass of wine somewhere and just chat for like
Yeah.
15 minutes, and it feels
Right.
like we just had hours in Italy together.
Hey, that's the great thing about World Showcase is you can travel the world without having to fly anywhere. It's all right there for you.
I was on Chris's live earlier, and somebody was talking about how they went to Hawaii and they went to Japan, and I was like, man, I did that too the other day. It wasn't that even far. It was like, like a half a mile to get to each other. It's right
And
there.
they look at you like, wait a minute, what? What are you talking about? That's funny. So we've talked a lot about kind of your favorite memories and things like that. But since you've been in the parks as kind of for quote unquote your job and working for Walrus Carp and things like that, what are some of your favorite memories on that side of things? We'll kind of step away from the dad hat for a moment.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen on the streams. And I think that's why people enjoy them, is because it's so organic, right? So like even take, and we have so many memories, and there's so many inside jokes with the live streams, and they last all day. And I know that people feel that like, well, I don't want to miss what might happen next, even if I have to like leave it out. And then they come back and they're like, oh, what is happening? Like now we're doing voices, or we're like, so anything like last night, right? I was so bummed. I'm so happy that cast members got an opportunity to see Fantasmic, but I desperately wanted to see it again because I really enjoy that show. So much so that I went outside to see if I could listen to the show. And then we sat there and watched on the other phone the stream while listening to it. Yeah. And then this whole entire extra funny commentary came out, and then the cackle hag voice, the old man voice came out. Like none of those things could have happened on my own. Like if I was just there alone, it wouldn't be as fun. Mm-hmm. And two is I don't know what's going to happen either, because it could be somebody's comment that sets it off, or it's an experience that we have that sets it off, or it's something that we observe that sets it off, because there's so much that happens and changes throughout a park day that it can alter the entire experience for everybody. So it's impossible to come up with like, oh, there is one great moment that is captured forever, and that is the birth of Rebel as a character. I still think that is one of the craziest ones, because
oh my gosh,
we were in Hollywood Studios. For those that don't know, Rebel is the very surly, very Italian and rude, brusque Porg character that. It happened in Hollywood Studios, where somebody asked me, can you do like a really quick breakdown on the Star Wars movies? So I started laughing and said, you know what, I'll do it. I'll do it via this Porg's voice. And I had Rebel at the time. It was just a little puppet, and I'm having him flap and chat, and everybody was dying. And he's expensive.
Funny.
He's not like cheap. He's not like $20 where you're like, I'll just buy this puppet.
Right.
And everyone was like, you have to buy the puppet. I'm like, I'm not buying a puppet. When am I going to use the puppet? And
little did you know.
Little did I know that Rebel was going to become ingrained as a part of Pocket Fam as well.
Well, and it was like immediate Pocket Fam. Like several people Venmo'd you. And you had to turn around and buy it.
I had to get them. This was on YouTube too, by the way.
Yeah, it was Rad Tea Party.
So I have headphones in, I have a gimbal, and I'm doing Rebel. This was actually one of the first Rad Tea parties where Diz Life Mark couldn't make it. So I was like riding solo. So I was like, oh, this is kind of, I didn't know what to do for that night. And then we had endless amounts of things to do that night. And now has become just an amazing addition to the group.
Well, and his name, you got to tell the story about how he got his name.
So yes, So the origin story of the name is, okay, well, we have to go on a Star Wars ride. So we go on Star Tours. And I'm flapping this thing like he's flapping along with us the whole time. People are laughing hysterically too. Now, mind you, we get on a Star Tours car and it's later at night.
Oh my
It's,
gosh.
closer towards like 8:15 at night, and it's basically Rebel, myself, and like maybe five other people in this Star Tours ride. And wouldn't you have it, the only time I've ever been picked, and it wasn't even me, to be the Rebel spy was the Porg. And the funniest part is I had the glasses on the
On the
Porg.
pork.
So you guys had a pair of glasses on you, and the Porg had glasses, and yeah, and Rebel got selected, and I was dead, and then
Oh
that's
my
why he
gosh.
was called Rebel forever,
Oh my gosh.
which is
So funny.
and he's been so integral as like a funny guest
Yeah.
to have on from time to time, and has always been reoccurring,
Yeah.
and it's, I think, when you think about it too, voices and characters definitely adds a depth and a layer to the way that we edutain the
Hmm.
streams.
For
And I
sure.
enjoy doing them. I've always enjoyed doing voices, even as like a young age as a kid. And the Rebel one, for those that don't know, the Rebel one is basically me if I could say whatever I wanted without constraint, but with some guardrails in, because like I don't want to get banned from TikTok.
Right.
But he
Oh
is a
my gosh.
savage. He's
That
got
was
no
gosh, that
couth.
was probably what, like March or April?
Yeah,
It's
it
been
was
a
early. I
while.
mean, I would have to go back onto
Yeah.
YouTube, but it exists. It's a rad tea party where
Oh
Rebel
my
was born.
gosh. Too funny. That is a very, very good one. So, speaking of all of the streams and things like that, tell all of our viewers how we can find you, where we can follow you, how we can connect with you if we want to see more.
So we run a theme park clothing company. If you want to check out any of those clothes, go to Walrus Carp, Walrus like the animal, carp like the fish.com. And then we live stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Monday and Wednesday are all day streams, 8 o'clock all the way until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So it's an all day stream. And then Fridays are a 10 to 1 p.m. Busch Gardens stream. And then we also do Distry on Friday nights here on TikTok, and then we do YouTube premiere on Tuesdays, and then occasionally we'll throw in some extra live streams. But yeah, you can find us. Just type in Walrus Carp on any of the social media outlets, and we've got a channel somewhere. But the big ones, if you want to see our active content, it's going to be TikTok first, YouTube second.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Kirk, thank you so much for coming on with me this evening and sharing all your wisdom. My chat was full of people saying what great ideas you have and fabulous information and hacks for those of us who are looking for that. So we really appreciate your time this evening.
No problem. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm not as attractive or nice as Kate or knowledgeable, but I did my best I could.
It was great. So briefly, I'm just going to talk about a couple things on the Mom Street side for those of you who are curious about kind of what is up and coming on Mom Street. So next week, next Thursday is Thanksgiving, so there will be no Mom Street next week. We're not going to do any sort of pre-recorded or anything. Kate and I are just going to enjoy that time with our families. And have that the following week, which will be the 1st of December already, if you can believe it. Kate and I are going to be doing our very first Q&A episode. So we will be looking for the community to give us questions that maybe we haven't gotten to yet, that they are looking for answers for an upcoming trip. Or whatever it may be. So we'll be posting some TikTok videos you guys can comment on, and also posting in the Discord. If you guys are not in the Discord, that Discord is run by this man right here. It is the Walrus Carp Discord. Link can be found in my bio and can also be found in Kirk's links in his bio as well. And that is basically just a big chat community that we all hang out in and help answer Disney questions and just enjoy life together over there. It's a really, really great community full of people. But we'll be posting on there as well for you guys to submit questions that you want to have answered. And as well, you can just bring them to the live show Thursday night, and Kate and I will do our best to get through as many questions as you guys have to help you out with that. So that's kind of what is up and coming For us, as far as Mom Street goes, as always, we always tell you can find our merch as well if you're looking for fancy holographic stickers with the Mom Street logo. We also have shirts in short sleeve, long sleeve, and in hoodie form on Kate's website, which is disneycicerone.com. You can also find the link to that up in my bio as well for Mom Street. I think that's it. I always feel like I gotta get all that information out at the end of every episode because it's okay.
Well, listen, it's important. It's important for people to know how to follow and where to go from here. That's the only way that you grow is to let them.
Absolutely.
If one thing that I learned throughout this whole entire journey is if you don't tell people what you want them to do, then how are they supposed to know to do it?
Yeah.
Right. So go buy stuff, you bums. Christmas is coming up
too. Yeah, exactly. And if you guys haven't followed our Mom Street account, please be sure to hop over there and check it out. We post a ton of clips from our shows. We also post a ton of just general hack and informational content over there as well. We just, thanks to Pocket Fam, hit 400 followers over there. So we're slowly making our way to the 1,000 mark. The goal is to get to 1,000 over there so we can start live streaming from that account as well. But slowly but surely we're making it there. So if you haven't followed us on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, we post all of our episodes on YouTube as well as on our podcast. Again, all of those links are in my bio. So if you're looking for additional information or you've missed episodes, like I said, last week we talked about all things Christmas. Previously, before that, we went through all of the Disney resorts. Several episodes on each kind of level of the resorts and things like that. So be sure to check that out as well. Ash Dancer, thank you for the hand heart. You can find our Mom Street account. It's just at Mom Street USA, or you can use my link tree in my bio to find the Mom Street information there as well. Perfect. All right. Well, I think we're done for the evening. So thank you all for those of you who joined us. We appreciate you tuning in and hanging out and interacting with us in the chat. We always say that, we're here for those of you that are here in the chat and those of you that watch online or listen to the podcast. We're here to help make your trips as magical and stress-free as we possibly can. So we appreciate your support as always.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate it.
And thanks again, Kirk, for joining us this evening. I hope everyone has a great night, and we will see Kirk tomorrow night on Distry. Are you guys doing a YouTube premiere tomorrow night?
No. Oh, yeah. For Distry is going to be a YouTube premiere, correct. We already pre-recorded that one. Tomorrow will be on YouTube at 8:30 p.m. on Walrus Carp's YouTube, and it's going to be all about Christmas parades. So
and that is
get ready to Christmas parade it up.
We are both fortunate enough to co-host shows with Kate, so that is with Kate as well. So be sure to check that out tomorrow evening.
I was friends with her first.
I mean, you're not wrong. Are we really going to make this a contest?
Yeah, tell me you're petty without telling me you're petty. I'll go first. I knew her before you. Actually, you know what? I do have a claim to fame on Kate. I have a claim to fame. I sent her a message out of the blue before, this was a week before she blew up. No joke. It was a week before she had her first video go to 6 million views or something crazy. But I remember sending her the message. I said, hey, I've been following your content for a long time. I think you are so original, and I think you have some of the best, well-researched, manicured Disney parks history that I've seen of anybody. Just keep what you're doing, and you're going to crush. That's all I sent. Nothing hey, let's be friends together and talk about Disney on a show. And it just so but it just so happens that I do feel very lucky, and at some point she'll grow out of me and leave.
I don't think that'll happen. You can tell yourself that, but I don't. I feel like I know Kate fairly well, and I do not think that will ever happen. You can't get rid of her.
Dude, she's going to be big time. She'll be writing books and working in the archive, and she'll be like...
Her book is insane. It's
killer.
So good. I'm so excited for it to be out. I'm so excited for everyone to be able to read it. Very, very good. All right. Now that we talked all about Kate when she's not here and can't hear us, but we'll be
Good.
able to hear this
Good. That's
later.
That's the best way to talk about her.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to tell her like, yo, don't listen to the
Listen.
last 4 minutes of the podcast.
I'm not going to tell her that. I also, need her for the other half of this show, so I have to stay on Kate's good side. I'll throw you under the bus so I can stay on her good side.
By the way, Kate, you can't see, but she is telling me to say all of this stuff, so I would never said that.
I'm not going to tell her this is at the end of this episode. I'm just going to wait for her to find it when she listens back to do the podcast.
She's good. Yeah, I can already see. I can hear the eye rolls from here.
Waiting for the group text message. Listen. Just because I'm not there does not give you permission. Oh my goodness. And on that note, everyone have a great evening. Thank you again for joining us on Mom Street USA, and we will see you for our next show in 2 weeks, and you can catch Kirk tomorrow night on YouTube.
Bye.
Bye.